4, 3, 2, 1. Incoming.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Omnic Lab. We're a podcast that talks about Overwatch strategies every week. And we're here to help you in more of a scientific approach where we help you and ourselves in those strategies by testing them out and like a little bit of a blowing your up in your face strategy sometimes, and other times it tends to work out in your favor and you sometimes climb to diamond. I'm your host Rob May, and joining me as always on episode number 25 is Andres Diamond Gomez. What's up?
Diamond Gomez. Ooh, I like that. You come
Ooh.
up with a new nickname every show. You know, you're saying that you're having a hard time coming up with nicknames for me, but like you've gotten really good lately.
Well, I appreciate the sentiment. It's probably good that you hit diamond because nobody wants this gold tag that I have. So unless you're like stuck in silver or bronze, which I still have only one or two people that I've talked to on our Discord that are stuck in that awful loop in silver. So I do not envy them.
Oh, but I mean, we need somebody to represent the gold and the silver crowd, right? It's like
I
the
guess so.
it's like the House of Representatives. You need somebody from every part of the country and different places, you know, so you gotta get an equal
That's true.
representation. That's all we're trying to do, guys.
But as a equal opportunity citizen of the lower class, I still am not content. I want to move up to the middle class that is platinum.
It's okay. We'll get you there.
Yeah, we'll do it. All right. So this week, guys, it's a little bit of a different show. We're kind of putting our foot a little bit lesser off of the gas on banging out, going deep every week and talking super deep strategies or picking apart the meta of the pros. We're kind of like pulling it back to a little bit more of our casual listeners and strategy people, because this week is Halloween week in Overwatch, and it is extremely fun. Andres, what have you noticed so far? Like, what's your one highlight since we just launched into Halloween week?
I would say that they went out of their way in this event. I think that last event was kind of like their first introductory thing for this sort of style they're trying to do. But this time they like nailed it out of the park. Like everything looks so cool. The skins, the whole vibe, the way they change some of the maps, and even the brawl is really good. Last time the brawl was also really, really good. The Lucy Ball, can't complain about that one. But really enjoying this one. I think that normally I wouldn't be very interested in this sort of like PvE kind of thing, but especially this time that they coupled it with the achievements and stuff, like I've really been wanting to grind it out. I know that you've been a little successful at it. I have not been able to be successful at it, and it's kind of grinding my gears a little bit. But so far, I've been really liking this event. How about you?
I have really dig it. Like, I feel like everything from like I think for me it's more of like the little details and that extra layer of polish, like having the Overwatch theme with organs and lightning and screeching cats in the background when you load in, and you're getting into Eichenwald and it's like this dismal location where it looks really creepy, and then you have all of the pumpkins and candles across Hollywood. It's just those little layers of polish. And then like when you go to check out the new skins, which we'll get to in our news section, I noticed this week that someone had told me to look at what Symmetra's little sentries look like. So I opened up the skin and I clicked over her weapons and cycled through to where the little sentries are, and then you spin them around and like they're actually like eyeball veins on the side of them. And I was like, that is so cool.
Really? I had not noticed
Yeah.
that. I gotta go check it out.
So a little Easter egg for you if you want to play Symmetra and you like her on, defense. You got to get that vampire skin if you're going to play her at all. Like, that's so
awesome.
freaking cool.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's little bats on her leggings, which is amazing.
I didn't even know that you could look at the turrets and the weapon thing, but that makes so much sense. Kind of like how you can look at Genji's sword and that stuff.
Mercy's pistol and Junkrat's mines. Yep, everything.
Yeah, that's cool. Learn something every day.
All right, so that being said, we got to do our competitive mode update. So where you at, Andres, and what you doing?
All right, this week has been comp for me pretty much. I've been playing a
Yeah,
lot in the six group with our friend Shockmaster from Discord and a bunch of other
nice.
guys from the Discord as well. We've kind of formed like a six group that we've been playing constantly. It's been nice because once you play with the same group of people for a prolonged period of time, you kind of start knowing each other and you start trusting each other a little more. We've had like different drills and stuff where we play with one another, and I think that slowly by playing with each other more and more, everyone's kind of like realizing like, huh, you guys are actually really good. And it struck me the other day because like everyone was kind of like realizing like everybody else in the team was also really good. And it only happened once we kind of like started playing against each other too. We did like this kind of exercise of a 3 versus 3, and
Oh wow.
it kind of like struck me a little bit that during the game you don't have very much feedback on how your teammates are doing. Like sometimes like you have the kill feed so you can see like who gets the kills, but even that is kind of inaccurate, right? Because it could be one person that is dealing like most of the significant damage and creating the opportunities, and then last minute it can be like that the Winston that comes over and just gets the last hit and he's the one who
Yeah,
appears in the kill feed. So that's kind of inaccurate.
yeah.
And same with like
Finishing blows.
yeah, you don't know who is actually like doing the most. I mean, you can kind of have an idea, a general idea of how your teammates are doing, but it's not very accurate. And you can also you can see like the small little nuanced plays that a lot of players are doing kind of like separately and stuff. But once you play against them, it's like, oh wow, this guy is really oppressive in this sense, and I hadn't realized this.
Hmm.
I feel sorry for my enemies now, kind of thing.
Right, right. Like they're
um,
actually able to pick them apart pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. So it was cool, but then it also got me thinking about that part of the game. Like the feedback on how your teammates are doing is very general and not very accurate, and it's hard to
Hmm.
have an idea unless there's a lot of communication going, and even then still hard. Have you had this happen to you? Have you noticed this?
As far as like grouping a six and like
Not
doing that,
having
or
not having like a good idea of how your teammates are doing. Do you have that same impression?
I feel like even though I like to whine a lot about it in the Discord, if you guys have seen it, like the support life, as it were. But I do think that the support mains typically have either a better idea of like what's actually going on in the game than the players piloting the heroes, because you're able to observe like what the back line looks like. You're watching in front of you what the front line is doing, and you're seeing nothing but kill feeds or getting killed first. So you're seeing how the opponent, you have like instant feedback. So I feel like that in and of itself has helped me a lot, like analyze the game a little bit better than most of my gold comrades in the queue. So, and it also at the same time is a little bit more rewarding when you do win, because you're able to like say, well, this means that we executed something that we were actually shooting to do. Like it's there in front of me, and it's not me that's doing it. It's me like kind of almost pushing the team verbally and strategically, like saying, let's try this, or them
Mm-hmm.
giving me their feedback as to what it looks like on the front line. Like that is very valuable to me. So in that respect, I do see it a little bit, but it's really hard when you have people that aren't committed to the reciprocating of the feedback, or like not taking it as like a personal attack. That's really hard for a lot of people to take. It's like, guys, we're not killing them. And the support's yelling at you. It's like, well, that's the support's job, is to yell at you when you're not killing things. And the support's job is also to stay alive. So like they can turn that around and say, stop dying so much and we can actually push this. So some of that is hard to note for me, is knowing if I'm doing a good job. I typically like to, I think it's easy for everyone else to say whether their allies are doing good or bad. It's hard to evaluate your own gameplay, I think, the most.
Okay, interesting.
For me, that's just my perspective. I mean, you're more than welcome to play devil's advocate there, but I think as a support main, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, it makes sense. As DPS, I generally tend to have a good idea if I'm performing well, whether or not I'm opening a space for my team, getting picks, being able to, pick their supports, that sort of thing. I guess in that sense, it's easy to gauge whether you're doing good because once you're doing bad as a DPS, like your whole team can feel it, right? Like the enemy team feels like a brick wall, and you feel kind of
Right.
useless, like you're not contributing much. So I guess as DPS, it's
Sure.
a little easier to know in that way. But you're right. As a DPS, sometimes I'm like very focused on the enemy team, very sometimes in their back line, and not really like looking at my team at that moment because I'm in the middle of the fight. So
Yeah.
my viewpoint of the battlefield is, I guess, a little more limited in that sense. Well, maybe as a Mercy or a Lucio, we're hanging a little more in the back and in the middle of your team. It's easier for you to tell. So it makes sense why kind of like the different perspective there. But that's cool, man. It's maybe it's a role thing.
Yeah, it could be. It could be, but like you said, like you've been playing Lucio a lot this week along with your DPS, so you're seeing it from like in the fray, in the middle of the team, like they revolve around you a little bit more than being in the back.
Yeah,
I've been playing
Lucio.
a crap ton of Hanzo this week, so
Oh, nice. Yeah, so you're away from a distance.
yeah.
Lucio has been kind of like my go-to support. I pretty much settle on three heroes: Reaper, McCree, and Lucio. I love DPS, and
Mhm.
especially with a six-man, I've been able to just DPS constantly. I'm becoming kind of like the main DPS for them. And I've been alternating between Reaper and McCree, kind of like the short range hit scan, and then like medium range hit scan kind of guys. And it's working out really well. I've
Yeah.
been really getting the hang of those two guys. I feel really confident with them. And then there are those games where I just jump with a friend or I just do solo queue, and you can't always just count on being the DPS, right? Like there's other people out there who
Sure.
are also good at DPS and who want to play DPS. So every once in a while in a game, you have to be like, all right, I'm just gonna play something else, tank or something. But I usually end up
Right.
going for Lucio. I don't know. I think I have a good sense of when to alternate between the healing and the speed boost. And I've been getting a lot of compliments for it, especially now that I've been playing him at Diamond. Like, hey,
Yeah.
really good speed boost and stuff. And
Nice.
I think it comes from playing a DPS. I know exactly like those times that I would wish I would have speed boost so I can just like rush him. And I play DPS really aggressively, and I like the idea of like getting in their faces sometimes and like being very aggressive. So I think just because I have that sense, then the speed boosts kind of like timings come a little more naturally. And Lucio and me have been like gelling really well together.
Yeah. I have not had as much experience with playing with Lucios. I feel like most of the groups like to play one solo support, like on Koth. So I end up defaulting to playing Lucio, or I've been playing a lot of Ana lately, and then with the new stuff happening this week, I've gotten my Mercy rekindled back up to snuff because of the new witch skin, and just like going bonkers with that in my comp games. And then on the flip side, I haven't played much at all. That being said, that I when I do play, it's not much because the time zone has been crazy. Some of my partners that I in crime that I've been trying to queue with have not been on the same time as me, so I'm kind of really feeling the Japan time zone shaft this week. It's been pretty rough. But that being said, I have been able to find some really great people to help us transition into news and patch notes for Halloween. For our main topic today, I got really lucky. Props to Sassy in our Discord. Him and I banged out a lot of games this week.
Nice.
And we were able to grind out both the achievements that are easy, which is basically like winning on 4 different rounds. So let's actually just jump into the news,
Yeah,
which
let's do
is
it.
the new patch. All right, so the new patch, basically the Halloween event is here. Mentioned it multiple times already, and then there's also like a bunch of stuff from the PTR that we'll just remind you of. The scoping change for Widow, the Ana Nano Boost nerf is as far as like making it longer for you to get the charge, and the Biotic Grenade increased radius. And then we have, last but not least, is the what's the last change? Oh, Junkrat's tire windup is faster.
That's right.
So all of that stuff is live on the servers, so you guys can maybe test out your Widows again if you please. And we also have some really cool UI profiles that allow you to see there's like a slight sharper font. They have like some new player stuff. It looks really clean. I mean, real quick, Andres, did you notice the change in the player profiles?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of changes all over the UI, and I'm a fan of all of them. I think it looks really really slick. I'm a fan of like the new little layout and like the icons for the profiles, like displaying your
Yeah.
statistics. Looks a lot cleaner, and I feel like the other way was almost boring to look at. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
just a wall of text, and he was like, yeah, but I don't know. It was not easy to digest. I feel like this layout is a lot easier to digest at glance. And my
It's easier
only,
to navigate too.
yeah, my only little remark is that in your kills or your solo kills, the icon is this little flame, and then in your damage done, the icon is like a bullet, and I'm like, can you just swap those two around? It's bothering me from like OCD perspective. I'm like, why is damage a bullet and kills a flame? This doesn't make any sense. But
Or
aside
at
from
least like a
that,
little skeleton head, like for
yeah, like
deaths or
why is it
something. I
not
don't
like
know.
like a dead eye kind of thing? You could work out,
Yeah.
but a flame, come on. All right, but that's my
What?
only rant about it. Everything else looks really good.
There's also a new cool feature that we forgot to mention, which is there are inside the game, there's the top 500 that you can actually find. So when you go into play and you go to competitive, there's two little buttons underneath competitive that say like, one of the buttons says like, what was this? What does it say here? Leaderboards. So you can like pan through 50 players at a time and see who the top 500 players are, and like what three characters they play the most, which I think that's
I
really
thought that
cool.
was
What they're
really
still
cool
doing
to have inside of the game because one, you give a lot of recognition to the people who've put in the time in this game. Two, it lets you know like who the hell is actually up there. So like, and you can
Yeah.
actually look at their profiles and like compare yourself to them. There's websites to do this, but it's nothing better than just having it in the game and you being able to do it right then and there.
Yep.
Also, really big fan that have you tried this? You can actually look at your friends' leaderboard once you're in the
Really?
yeah, once you're in the leaderboards, there's a little like friend little check box up in the top
Ooh.
right corner. You can check that. It'll only display your friends list for brawls and for competitive too. So it's kind of cool because you can
Wow, that's
actually kind
cool.
of like see where you're ranked with your friends.
That's awesome. I'll have to check the brawl thing. I'm curious as to how many people haven't gotten,
Dude, you're
3
probably
or
like at
4.
the top of my list. I need to check that out too. Because I have not
Yeah, yeah,
completed
yeah.
the brawl achievements.
I know Fat Cake hasn't gotten them either because I was trying to do it with him and one of his top 500 buddies today, and we were like trying to get the perfect score on the door, and we missed it by one shot. Like we got hit on the last fight with a rip tire that hit the door.
Oh man, that
So
sucks.
yeah, so we will tell you guys how you can do that. That's next on the list. But just in case you're wondering, you're living under a rock, what's going on with this event? Basically, we want to make sure that you understand the event extends through November 1st. Now, I'm not 100% on if November 1st is the cutoff day and everything rotates out on November 1st, or if November 1st is just the last day of the event and then it rotates out on the second. So keep that in mind when we tell you the next bit of news, which is everything in this event is not like Summer Games where you can actually buy every item here until November 1st, and then it all goes back into the vault. I got a confirmation tweet from Overwatch's like Twitter feed this week about that. So on November 1st, you can no longer buy any of the Halloween events. However, you can buy them. It's just that they're all at a premium 3 times this normal price. So
Ouchie.
that means that anything that's 25 is 75 for like sprays. All of the blues are from 70 are that normally are 75 or 225. Any epics that you want or purples, those are now 750, and any of the legendary skins are 3,000. So it's a hefty price tag, but it's for those people that are really dedicated and really want the one thing that they want, or maybe like they're on their list, there's like 1 or 2 items that they really, really want, you can get them.
I'm
I
really
still
glad
have
that they
one
made
gripe
this
with them though.
change. Really, really glad they did. I think that a lot of people were really mad last event because even some people that actually
Sure.
spent money on loot boxes and stuff like that bought the 50 loot boxes, and
Yep.
didn't get what they wanted. I know that I didn't get my American McCree, and I was kind of a little bit upset about that. That I have to wait a whole another year to kind of like get a shot at it, maybe because we don't even know if they're bringing it back.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but this is a super nice compromise because you can just roll for your loot boxes. You don't have to spend any money. You can just play. If you're close to prestiging, you might be able to get those easy like 20 loot boxes there. But then if you
Yep.
get really unlucky, you can always just pay up the money. And honestly, I have some spare money that I haven't used because I have most of the normal skins that I like. So
Hmm.
at least for like cosmetic stuff and stuff, I got everything that I like. So when the events roll around, it's kind of nice having that little chunk of money left and be like,
Yep.
ooh, Hanzo's skin looks cool. Cha-ching!
Yep. Yep. I'm in the same camp. I'm also trying to max out 2 of my heroes eventually, and Mercy's one of them. And I'm still close. I'm missing like 1 Halloween spray, the Halloween rip thing, for the whatever they're called,
The grave.
end game screen
Yeah, yeah.
graves. Yeah. So that's another thing. Every hero gets at least 2 things this patch. So with all the loot boxes, any hero can get some sort of gravestone, RIP, like end game highlight, or not highlight intro. I don't forget what the technical term is,
Victory
but it's basically
pose?
when the game ends. Victory pose. That's it. So everyone gets a victory pose, and everybody gets some sort of Halloween themed spray. Then the other things that you can look for, there are 4 legendary skins. There is Headless Horseman Reaper with a pumpkin head. There is like a Frankenstein monster Roadhog, and then there's Professor Frankenstein Junkrat, or Junkenstein as a lot of people have been calling him. And then there's Witch Mercy. But the other skins are really cool as well. Like these are some top tier epic skins. We've
For
got
sure.
one of the greatest and arguably my favorite skin in the set besides the Mercy skin is the like ghoul looking Ana skin where she has like a pumpkin face, which is amazing. And then there's a Gravestone Bastion, a Oni or demon slash spirit Hanzo that is kind of like cross between a zombie and like a really scary like tattooed like gray Hanzo. It's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Then there's some sort of like crazy soldier, which I heard was supposed to be like a callback to Thriller with Michael Jackson
Oh,
with the jacket
that
and like
kind of
the
makes sense. Yeah, because it's like a
skull
leather
face.
jumpsuit, kind of like really tight.
And I was like, that's really dope. Yeah,
he
makes
looks kind
sense.
of like zombie-ish. Yeah, kind of like in the video almost.
And then there's like a really neat Farah skin that's like she's kind of like purple ghosty. There's a Headless Horseman, also similar Reinhardt skin where he has like a almost like a floating spirit head.
Like a ghost.
Then we
Reinhardt.
mentioned, yeah, Ghost Reinhardt. That's it. He looks like he's from Hamlet, you know.
Yeah.
And then there's a Symmetra skin which we mentioned with the eyeball sentries, but she's like a vampire skin, so pale tones and really cool reds. And then there's a skull version of Zenyatta, which is pretty neat, or skeleton.
He looks like he's in a gang somewhere.
He does. Looks so sweet. And then there are
you,
3 emotes too, and 3 highlight intros. So you guys got to check those out. They're really neat.
Yeah. Have you noticed that a lot of the promotional skins are red skins or have like really intense red accents? I've noticed that most of the stock skins that came with the game totally ignore red. And like I've noticed this because red, especially like deep red, is one of my favorite colors. So when I'm looking for the skins, I'm always looking for like that sort of tone. And in the
Like
in-game
Bloodheart.
ones, yeah, exactly. But in the in-game ones, it's super, super rare. But I've noticed that in all of the promotional ones, there's a lot of red sprinkled all over them. And I wonder if this is like on purpose. Because as soon as I see the red ones, I'm like, oh yes, that's the one I want.
Sold.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, so let's take a quick second. That's basically it. There's some more stuff, but we don't need to belabor the point. There's 4 brawl achievements that you can get special sprays for. They are to complete medium, complete hard, and do the event and win with each of the 4 heroes. The brawl consists of only 4 heroes you can play as, which is Ana Hanzo, Soldier 76, and McCree. And it's a 4-player versus like zombie apocalypse Omnic thing. And we'll get to that. But thank you again this week to brand new patrons. We have 4 new patrons this week. We've got Ryan R, or Ryan K, We have R. Peplinski. We have Paul B. and Terry F. You guys rock. Thanks for joining the Omnic crew as scientists. We
Welcome,
appreciate
welcome. Super awesome to have you guys.
This is also the moment where we apologize for how lengthy it was last week. We had some people in the chat tell us that the Patreon section last week was a little long. It is, but we want to make sure that you guys know, please go change your pledges. There's still plenty of people that haven't changed their pledges, and it's making me really nervous. Go change your pledges before November 1st. We are going to monthly donations, from monthly donations to, per episode content. So please go.
Last week was the announcement of a lot of the changes. So sorry it was a little lengthy for everyone who is not trying to listen to Patreon stuff, but is here for the Overwatch. But it was an important topic for the people who donate to the show and support us in that way. We really want to let us know about all the changes and how they should adapt to them. So we'll be bringing it up a couple of times in the next few episodes. But this episode, this is as much as we're going to say about it.
That's it. That's it. All right. So the main topic of the week is the Halloween Brawl how-to guide for perfect door or hard mode. So let's get into it. We have the 0 door damage and hard mode sprays that you can get as well for completion of these. Now, the reason I've looped them together is that I'm going to be talking to them in general strategy, because if you get to doing these, the only main difference is like the timestamps on some of the bosses and the health pool and how much damage you're taking from the bombers and the bosses. So basically we use the same strategy for doing both of these when I was hanging out with Sassy and a couple other people that joined up with us. I will say that we did duo queue hard mode, which is nearly unheard of. We kind of just did duo queue. We might have picked up a third that was playing with us for a while. Pretty average player, actually. And then we got a random fourth that was a freakishly beastly 76, and we did the hard mode. So
oh, nice. I have not completed the hard mode or the 0 damage, so I'm interested in hearing what you guys did.
I will say this. A lot of people will say their opinions on which of the two is harder, but like I said, they're both really difficult. So my recommendation is try to do the 0 door achievement, because if you do that, you're going to be much more prepared for what's going to happen during hard mode. You're just going to take a little bit more damage when you try to get into it. So I've kind of broken this up into some categories. Basically, we have a boss guide. I've given you a link to Reddit user Ino Nazca, which gave you kind of like his tip for how to do hard mode. So props to him. I just gave him a link because it's something that I use to kind of give me the ideas that I needed. We have some positioning options, and priority targeting, and then how to play each hero. So we'll kind of get into that. I will say that the most important thing for this brawl is that you have a Hanzo that can aim and hit things, and you have a Ana that keeps you alive. You can do this brawl with a very mediocre McCree, and you can do the brawl with a very mediocre 76, even more so.
Oh, that makes
but
me
the
a little
McCree
sad.
is probably the third most important, because I will say that for hard mode, it's a little less important about recovery from the door, and it's more important to pay attention to your health bars and to the bosses, because that's the priority,
that. The
right?
times that I played hard mode, like once one of your teammates gets killed, is like a domino effect where everyone just starts getting killed.
Right. You have a lot more leeway since you're not trying to protect the door to a T. You're trying to protect the door in principle, but not necessarily with a perfect accuracy.
As long as you win it with one damage left on the door, you win it.
Right. And that's why I would say that hard mode is a little easier. And because you only have to do it once. Whereas if you're grinding out the medium difficulty to get the perfect door achievement, you can just finish it out unless you've only been playing for 30 seconds or 1 minute, and then you can just like rage quit with your group. That's usually the best way to do it, is if you last for longer than a minute, just finish it out. You get free experience. Use the rest of the mode for practice to try not to take any more damage, etc.
Cool.
But here's the main things that we'll go with. The first thing is priority targeting. Now, mine is going to differ quite a bit from some of the things that people are saying online, because this is how I did it. Doesn't mean that my way is correct and their way is wrong, or the other way around. It just means this is what worked for me. So my thing is that if there are Zomnics that are by the door, like basically past any of like that little slab in front of the door, if there are Zomnics there, they need to die is immediately. Like No questions.
Yeah,
Those
like
things need to die
once they get
first.
past the bridge or like up the little stairs that lead up to that platform, I feel like that's too close.
Yes, yes. Now, I will say that my priority targeting is going to be a little bit more biased towards perfect door, and I can give you an alternate priority targeting after this if you'd like. But Zomnics by the door. Second priority is rip tires. Those things must die because not only can they damage the door the most if you're on hard mode, or necessarily damage the door at all if you're trying to go for perfect door, but they have an AoE explosion radius that will just wreck your team, and it's bad news bears, Bilbo Baggins. Like, do not let those things by the door.
Yeah, those things hurt.
And
I can attest.
yeah, and then the next priority is bosses. Like whatever boss is up, they need to die. Luckily, Zomnics by the door, rip tires, and bosses are things that you can actually maintain almost simultaneously because only on hard mode are you really running into situations, at least in theory, that there is a rip tire coming to the door where the bosses are there, unless it's the last fight. So usually it's kind of Zomnics by the door and bosses, or rip tires and then bosses. It's not normally, or I'm sorry, rip tires and then bombers. Bombers is the last target that you need to maintain. But
I would say I was prioritizing bombers over bosses sometimes, especially on the medium mode for the thing, because they can get really annoying, especially when trying to damage the bosses.
Yeah,
and especially like
sure.
2 or 3 of them come out, and they can actually take out your Anna or your Hanzo really easily. So I was prioritizing them a little bit more. Not with the entire team, but I was telling like the Hanzo to be like, hey man, just focus on those guys.
Yep. And we'll get to that when we get to more of the like individual pieces of the puzzle, as it were. But like largely as a full team, this is what you're focusing, especially in the last fight. I think this is the main thing that you're going to be focusing on for perfect door for hard mode is you got to kill the bosses.
Priority, yeah.
So yeah, but let's get into main positioning options. Now these are not like this is what you used to position on each hero. This is more like options that you have where you can place certain people on the map, like as coverage. So after the first 3 waves, it's kind of like you need to set up. So what we did to great success is on the left ramp, we put the McCree, and then I had the Hanzo, which was myself. I would rotate between the center and the midfield area, the center and the left ramp, because I get some really good high ground that I can shoot over the bus, the overturned bus or whatever that's in there. It's really hard to shoot over that as Hanzo, especially if you're trying to kill the bombers. And occasionally I would even get right where they spawn and sit like facing the door and shoot my ultimate towards the door and cover it that way. So it's a really interesting position. And I'll tell you why when we get to the Hanzo section, but that's an option. And then you put the Soldier 76 in the middle and on covering the right door in the middle. And then you have the Ana on the little high rise on the right side covering the right door and like almost as an extra. But her priority is going to come into play when we talk about the individual heroes. Do you have anything that you wanted to comment on that?
I was doing a slightly different formation, but I think that I like yours. I like the Hanzo McCree on the left, 76 in the middle, and Ana in that little platform on the right. I was positioning McCree on that platform on the right, but I did notice a couple of times that up there, Ana had a really hard time like aiming at me and healing me up there because it was like right above her, and she was hanging out kind of like in the middle with 76. And I think if we would have made that little change, this gives a lot more line of sight to Ana to just heal anyone on the battlefield. So I like it.
The only drawback to this by putting McCree on the left is sometimes you can get between these little pieces of that like high rise where it's hard for Ana to heal you as Hanzo, which in that case, if you need healing, what we told our McCree to do, or I'm sorry, not Hanzo, I meant McCree. McCree needs to come to the top of the stairs, and the top of the stairs is a really great vision point for Ana to shoot you or throw a grenade at you to heal you up. But the reason that we put McCree up there was honestly because McCree's damage fall off after a certain range is really harsh. Yeah. So if you put him in the back where Soldier's hit scan and Hanzo's like amazing hitbox arrows are at in the back, it's not as punishing. And then obviously Ana has no headshots, just body shots type mentality with a scope.
Yeah, him being a little ahead does make him more effective, at least in the damage area.
Especially if you have like a mediocre one and he can kind of luck out and get those headshots, like more the low level where they tend to miss shots on McCree. It's really, really helpful. And when you do luck out and get those headshots. All right. So now that we've talked about positioning, we talked about targeting, let's talk bosses. So what do you do when the bosses? So the first boss is Reaper, then Roadhog, then Junkrat, and then when the timer hits 0, then you have Mercy, res all of them. Now, I'm not 100% on this. I cannot necessarily remember, even though I've done this a million times. I've done it more recently on hard than the perfect door. But I think if you're on medium, the last fight does not include Reaper immediately following the res. I think Reaper does come if you don't clear them out fast enough eventually. But then on hard mode, I believe the Reaper comes really fast, or on the point when you kill the Mercy, the Reaper spawns or something like that.
I think they both come at similar times, but in medium, it just feels easier to kill the Junkrat or the Mercy really fast. Well, in hard, it takes a little longer.
It's very easy to kill the Mercy on the perfect door achievement, so I will say that. All right, so that being said, what do you do with each boss? So I will say that we did differently than what I read on the article, and I think I like what the article did. It would have made some of these fights much easier, but we started changing a little bit of this. So the main strategy is when Reaper spawns, it's very easy. You have Hanzo and Ana line up Sleep Dart and a headshot on the teleport. You headshot him with the Hanzo dart, or with Hanzo and the Sleep Dart basically at the same time, so he takes a little bit of damage. And then you nano boost your McCree on the high rise, and he just does his Deadeye until he can one-shot the Reaper by the time he stands up. Now, sometimes this won't work with doing it like immediately. So if your Ana misses the Sleep Dart, there's another alternative method you can do, which is headshot him with the Hanzo, then have your like your soldier get ready to do Helix Rocket and also Hanzo ready to do Scatter Arrow and get a bunch of DPS on him right away. That'll force him into his phase shift. As soon as he does shift, then you nano boost your McCree, and McCree can do the charge faster and able to kill the Reaper before he can phase shift out of it. Because a lot of times we'll do the Deadeye and then he'll phase shift right before the Deadeye finishes, and you're like, crap, he's still alive.
That happened to me a couple of times, yeah, where I got nano boosted and I had like the entire skull on him. And the thing is, sometimes there's shifts, like 15 other like guys around it. So Reaper can be like the last shot. You know what I mean? You do like pop, 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 and he's like the 7th shot. But by the 7th shot, he's like Wraith Walk or Shadow Form, whatever it's
like
called.
Lol.
Yeah, and you're like, no.
Yeah, so be careful with that. So let's move on. Reaper is probably the easiest one to do. So like on medium and the perfect door, it's a lot easier to do the Sleep Dart nano boost into Deadeye than it is on hard mode. Hard mode, most of the time we just said Sleep Dart him right away so that we can land a Scatter Arrow and a Helix Rocket immediately to force the shift. That's the only reason we did that. So then when you see Roadhog, Roadhog is actually the hardest one to kill. He is the most difficult thing to piece together because he will get sometimes the luckiest hooks, and it's so aggravating. Like he'll just get a pick right away sometimes. So you have to be very careful when he first spawns. Try to get a couple headshots on him with Hanzo. And honestly, the most success we have with Roadhog is spreading out in like almost like a W formation. And like the McCree kind of push himself against the farthest left he can get with the wall and try to like zone out the hog so he doesn't get hit. And then you can nano boost actually the soldier, and the soldier can basically use his first bit of the ultimate of the nano boost and his own tact visor to destroy a bunch of the bombers right away, and then focus the rest of the ultimate onto Roadhog. Then what you need to do is you have to have your Ana make sure that she's using not like her Sleep Dart at the beginning of the fight, but rather as like a reserve for when Bio Grenade is on cooldown. Because as soon as you can, you need to make sure that you're monitoring or predicting when he's going to do the heal, so that you can, try to Bio Grenade him, prevent him from healing, and lining up your headshots when he does do the heal for the other characters. That's the main function for that. The other thing you can do is basically when Roadhog hits half HP or lower, you can Deadeye him. and also use the Deadeye to clear out the mobs as another alternative strategy. You can Deadeye the mobs, get a little bit of damage on Roadhog, and then blow the entirety of the nano-boosted soldier tac visor onto the Roadhog. Those are 2 alternate strategies you can do for Roadhog.
That makes sense. I like using the nano on the soldier for Roadhog just because none of the heroes in your team are very tanky, and they can die, like you said, really fast to Roadhog's hook. And I've noticed that whoever you nano boost is kind of like the player who draws the aggro of the Roadhog, and the Roadhog kind of starts focusing on them. So you can almost use the 76 as a tank at that moment, and giving him a nano boost, he can throw the his heal on the ground, and you can throw the biotic grenade on him, and basically he becomes kind of like invulnerable for a couple of seconds.
Now, if I'm going to deviate a little bit differently on this fight because it does differ quite a bit from Reaper. Reaper's more of like, you know, nano boost Deadeye, get him to phase shift at least once before you do it if possible, and then kill him. Like that's basically Reaper in a nutshell. But for Roadhog, it's a lot more complex because not only do you need to do this with your, you know, like your ultimate organization with Ana Reaper or Ana Soldier and McCree, but you need to basically have your Hanzo only headshotting the and using his scatter arrow onto Roadhog, and then you basically are on your own. Like you need to basically kill every bomber you can, make sure the door's cleared. Something that I've noticed as, like, we'll get into this a little bit more with the Hanzo section, but you basically, like, what I was doing is I actually would wait until Roadhog got near the door, and I would run all the way up to the opposite end, like I was saying, and face the door from the far end and shoot twin dragons right at the door. So it's hitting everything in the lane, and it's hitting Roadhog when he's by the door, and you're getting a lot of collateral damage onto the hog, and it's really efficient.
That's good.
Another way that you can do it is go horizontal by the door. So you just run to where McCree's at and shoot it across. So you're basically zoning the Roadhog off of your teammates and killing all the Zomnics by the door and preventing, you know, bombs from hitting the door from Riptire.
I did notice that, like, on Roadhog, the Roadhog fight is probably like the most hectic in regards to the other mobs start building up really fast while you're focusing on him. And next thing you know, there's like a group of 5 Zomnics knocking at the door, and you're like, whoa, what happened? And like Hanzo has,
and it gets out of hand real fast on hard.
Hanzo has like scatter arrow and cooldown. You don't have any ultimates, and you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, and you can even have McCree kind of switch off and on from his perch of killing Zomnics by the door or using Deadeye to just clear them out. That's kind of the main strategy, is like wait until they kind of build up, do a quick Deadeye, kill all the Zomnics, and get a little damage on the hog, etc. All right, so that being said, now we have Junkrat. Junkrat is going to be on that perch at the very top. He is going to be like the medium difficulty. I'd say he's probably tied with Reaper, but a little bit more challenging because now you need to nano boost your Hanzo, and you almost need to like wait until he's right about to spawn and then Twin Dragon with a nano boost like immediately. Because if you can do that, then by the time he spawns, the dragons are hitting him instantly, and he doesn't move initially. He will stay there and start firing until he empties his clip. And then he moves, reloads, and then empties another clip, and then he moves. So that's kind of the rotation for Junkrat. Now, Junkrat is basically the primary target for both Hanzo and McCree as a sole target. It is also the most important on when he's up to spread out. Because even though he's peppering one target pretty heavily, if you're stacked together, he's going to prioritize shooting you, and then he's going to prioritize, he prioritizes whoever's shooting him last, and then he kind of switches to wherever the biggest group of people are. And he will destroy you very quickly on hard mode, so you need to get rid of him as soon as you can.
Those bombs that he throws hurt a lot.
Yeah, another strategy that I've seen is if you can, I know it sounds really funky, but if you can get a sleep dart on him, just like randomly, just that little bit of disruption can help the Hanzo land a scatter arrow like right on the wall behind him sometimes. And that helped me a lot. Like I had Sassy just sleep dart. I was like, Sassy, if you can sleep dart him on Ana, more power to you. It'll stop the damage for a couple seconds. Because you have the animation of falling down, the animation of getting back up, and it's about, you know, full second to full 2 to 3 seconds that he is not shooting you. But yeah, on medium, most of the damage will be coming from the Twin Dragons, and then you get a couple headshots with him and McCree, and he's down. So he's usually pretty efficient. The problem with Junkrat is that really near to the time that he's about to die or supposed to die, you will have blown most of your ultimates on clearing out mobs because a lot of mobs spawn with him. And right after he dies, before the last fight, you have a double Riptire coming in from both sides. And if you're doing Perfect Door, this is the most important and critical moment.
That is the moment that has messed up my achievements so many times.
And I will tell you the easiest way of getting over this is having a Hanzo do two things. Hanzo will sit and get his ultimate from killing the Junkrat and getting a couple headshots before it happens, or a couple body shots, and just get targets. So let your Hanzo get his ult again right after, which is why you want to shoot at the beginning of the Hanzo's ult, right at the beginning of the Junkrat fight, so you can build it up again. So basically, you park it Hanzo on the back left corner by the door, but away from the staircase on the left. You point your arrow, your next ultimate at a diagonal location across the bridge, but at the door on the right side. It's hard to explain in an audio format. You basically get in the back left corner and you point towards the front right corner, especially where the door is at, where the tire will come out of the right side.
So you're shooting like across the map from like left to right?
Yeah, you're shooting it diagonal. And then as soon as you fire it, you're going to reposition it directly in front of the door and hold your scatter arrow fully charged. And if the McCree lets it past him, then you just scatter arrow, and that's how you do it. And sometimes you can even luck out and have the thing come in the very tail end of your Dragon Strike, and it hits. Dragon Strike actually finishes off both of the Rip Tires.
Interesting. I didn't know
that's
that
been
you
the
could
most
actually
efficient
get
way
rid
of
of the tires with the Hanzo ult.
Yep.
That's cool to know.
It's really, really, really nice. So that's how you do that one. And then the last fight. So the last fight is the hardest part of hard mode and is the most wipes that I had. But it is also not as difficult as it sounds for the Perfect Door achievement, unless you can't get Mercy down within the first 10 to 15 seconds. That's the biggest key. You can't die in the first 10 to 15 seconds, and you need to kill the Mercy as a priority. So what do you do?
That Mercy is like super, super key to kill, because if not, she'll be the biggest trouble of all.
The hardest thing in this fight is not actually killing the Mercy. It's ignoring and avoiding the Roadhog and the mines that Junkrat's peppering you with.
That makes sense.
So what you can do is, it sounds weird. We've tried it both ways, and both can work. I actually believe that we did Sleep Dart on the Roadhog for Perfect Door, and we Sleep Darted the Junkrat for hard mode. So you can switch it. You can try either. You need to Sleep Dart something. The beginning of the fight, something needs to go to sleep and take a quick nap, or you're gonna die.
Yeah. Four heroes against 4 heroes is actually quite hard, especially when the other 4 heroes are super buffed versions of themselves.
Usually, and luckily, the Reaper isn't like a prevalent target immediately on the res. So you have a little bit of time before he comes in and becomes the 4th target. It's 3v4 for a brief moment. So I would recommend probably Sleep Darting the Junkrat if you can, but I understand Sleep Darting the Roadhog is a lot easier. And then after the Sleep Dart drops, then the Hanzo needs to figure out where his ult's going. So you need to position the ultimate to hit the Mercy and as many Omnics as possible. It's less important that you hit the Mercy for the full duration, and more important that you can hit like a lot of zombies and avoid whatever got slept with your ultimate. This is the point where you also want to make sure that your soldier, I think this is better to have soldier get the nano here to get rid of the Mercy and then get the Deadeye, but you can also Deadeye your McCree after you've cleared out a bunch of the bombers, and then you can get a lot of damage on 3 targets all at once and usually kill off the Mercy. But you need to blow all of your ults on the Mercy at the beginning of the fight, and then you're building them up throughout the rest of the fight. The next target you should kill is actually Junkrat. He needs to be 2nd target because that AoE is insane, and it makes it really, really tough to maneuver.
Yeah, coupled with the Roadhog and all the Omnics coming out, is like your Ana cannot keep up with that.
Yeah. Especially for hard mode. I think, let me see here. Focus on last fight. Focus on Hog. Kill the Mercy within 15 seconds. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I got that mixed up. This is what we were doing, and it was really rough. But when we focused on killing Roadhog after Mercy died, it helped a lot. Because you can just keep Sleep Darting the Junkrat, and a lot of times because the Mercy and the Junkrat health pool are really close, you can kind of kill both of them around the same time. You just basically put Hanzo on the Junkrat after Mercy dies, and then everyone else kills Hog. And that's how we did it.
That makes
So
sense.
they
You
actually
can have your
died
Hanzo
really
just
close in
long
the same amount of
range.
time.
Yeah, and everyone else focus on the Hog and try not to die to him.
Yeah, it's actually funny because I'm not long range when I go up against the Junkrat. I'm actually up by him and all of the Zomnics on the front. So I'm killing all of the things that are bombing me, and I'm able to pull a lot of the Junkrat grenades towards me on the ground where no one else is. So you kind of have to play a little bit of DDR down there as Hanzo with a little bit like it's a little difficult, but you can kind of just finish him off with your Hanzo there.
Keep you on your toes.
Yeah. So you have any other comments here, Andres?
No, that
Like, does
seems
this
like
make
a
sense?
super solid strategy. I was doing a lot of the things that you mentioned over here. There's a lot of couple tricks that I didn't know, especially with the Hanzo. I do like your positioning with McCree a little better, and I like having the soldier kind of in the middle. I think, yeah, in hard, bosses are kind of like the thing you have to focus on. On medium, you can ignore bosses a little more and just focus on like nobody getting near your door, since bosses don't actually damage the door, and they don't do damage on medium. They can kill you, but if you have a good Ana, it's a little harder for them. I think this sounds really good. If you guys are
All
trying
right,
to
and
do the brawl, this is a good guide. I hope you guys can get through it. I know I'm gonna be trying to do the brawl, so if you're on Discord and you're around this week, hit me up because that's what I'm gonna be doing before the event goes out.
absolutely. And the last thing that I'll say is there's in our show notes, we probably don't want to belabor the point anymore, but there are actually each individual hero. There are a little bit of tips and tricks that I've included in our Google Drive show notes, not in the actual show notes of the show. So you actually need to go to the website and then go to show notes to check it out. But basically, the gist of it that we've already described, and then there's the Ana is the most tricky. You basically need to weave in all of your abilities, and after Roadhog spawns, you need to start switching to prioritizing healing over killing. And basically, your priorities now are keeping the team alive on hard mode, and then biotic grenading anything that gets near the door, and especially Riptires.
Yeah, I especially feel like the Anas that are effective with their sleep dart relieve a lot of pressure on the entire team
Right.
in the brawl. But the ones that have a hard time like landing those little darts and stuff, then like
Mm-hmm.
things get out of hand real fast.
Yep. So and then like basically the other thing that I will say is all of the abilities that heroes have when bosses are not alive should be used on all of your AoE abilities that you have. So that would be Hanzo's Scatter Arrow, Soldier Helix Rocket, McCree's Flashbang, and Ana's Biotic Grenade. All of those targets should be saved for if you have 2 or 3 Zomnics in one place, or for the next Riptire. And if you just killed a boss, there's a good chance in the next 20 seconds you're going to see a Riptire. So make sure that you use, like, as soon as a boss dies, you can try to find 1 or 2 targets together and then kill it. And then when the double tires come, that's predominantly your Hanzo's responsibility. But as McCree, when the tire's there, you flashbang, fan the hammer, roll, fan the hammer. Like, that thing should not get past you. There's no exceptions unless you're dead-eyeing that anything gets past you there. And then the Helix rockets are really helpful, but shoot in front of the tires.
Having the ultimates being useful against the Riptires really helps out a lot, especially when you're trying to do the achievement of no door damage. I'd say abuse your ultimates on the tires more than even on the hero sometimes.
Yep. The only person that needs to hold their ultimate is Ana. Everyone else can just burn their ultimates almost on cooldown.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Do you want to move over to our email section? We have a cool little email today.
Absolutely. I just bumped my microphone. Sorry about that. We'll move this over to Andres to read our email over here this week.
All right. This week we have an email from Dev P, and he says, "Hi, thanks for putting together an excellent podcast. Even though I'm not deep into competitive play, I listened to this podcast before I even start a quick play and feel confident about jumping in. It's great to hear thoughtful discussion of this great game." And he says, "First, do you think you might bring an occasional guest to discuss what's happening on the console side of things, or add any console-specific nuance to your advice? 2, he says, so deep down, I think I want to become a pro MLG Symmetra main. Something about her kit just feels amazing when it works. Am I doing a disservice to fellow players on the legacy of Overwatch by even thinking about this? Will this only work with pre-made groups who've opted into this nonsense? Can Symmetra be viable? Can I just tell toxic players that the true enemy of humanity is disorder? Um,
These
very,
are life's questions.
very passionate words. Should I mention that while I want to play well, I also recognize that I'm not going to get on a professional tier. So I'm okay if I play her. If playing her only works for the band of skill I'm likely to play at. On the other hand, if the cap is so low on what I can do with Symmetra, my efforts may well be wasted. I'd love to hear Symmetra breakdown sometime. And although you might want to wait for her rebooted kit before dedicating an episode to her, it would be nice to hear a breakdown on pre-worked Symmetra for the sake of posterity. All right, a long email there, but it's a cool topic of discussion. I don't think we even have talked about Symmetra other than mentioning her name and passing on a few episodes.
Right.
And let's take some time to talk about Symmetra because I actually have some fondness for her. I played her a lot on the closed beta when I was trying out the game.
When she was ridiculous.
Yeah, I also thought that her kit was really cool. I definitely think that there's some room for improvement, but let's just go into it. One, yes, we would love to have a guest to discuss the console side of things. I know we have a lot of console players that listen to the show, and we get console questions constantly. Actually, we're not console players ourselves, but we are not opposed to bringing in somebody who is very knowledgeable in console, knows the competitive scene. Like we said, we're just not into that scene ourselves, so we just haven't kind of extended our reach towards there. But if you guys know of anyone who you would like to have in the show, maybe shoot us their name or point us in their direction so we can reach out to them. It's definitely something we're open to. Now, moving on to the Symmetra discussion. I don't think you're doing a disservice to the legacy of Overwatch by thinking about going Symmetra main. There are some taboos about Symmetra right now. I do feel like when you pick Symmetra, you're gonna get like some glare, especially if you're like picking her not on defense on the first point. I feel like that's kind of like the accepted time to use Symmetra pretty much. But I don't think is the only way that you can play her. I actually think Symmetra is a very underexplored hero. She's been kind of like thrown into this kind of like niche role, and it makes sense because her kit is a little bit limited, and that is why I think Blizzard is thinking about reworking her. But I also think that playing Symmetra very creatively can be really good for your team. The turrets themselves can be super, super annoying, especially when placed well. They divert the attention of the enemy team and they can build up a lot of damage. And a well-placed teleport, especially well-timed, can definitely revolve the tide of battle into your favor. How about you, Rob? Have you played much Symmetra?
I did play a little bit just because we got this question in quick play, just out of curiosity. I played her on attack. I played her on defense. I played her in times where you would never want to play Symmetra because I have a lot of experience, and like you said, in the closed beta of playing her and right at the dawn of the game in the main area before competitive released. So I love Symmetra's kit. I think it's really cool. Teleport's like a second res. It's really awesome. But I do feel like the niche pick is just too much right now for her to really be totally viable, especially at top level. Like lower level, you can kind of get away with it if you play a lot of Symmetra. That experience alone can kind of carry you because people don't know how to play against Symmetra, especially on defense for whatever reason. But she is very powerful on defense, Hollywood. Like that's the one map where I'm just like, I almost always want to have a Symmetra on that first point on Hollywood. She feels very strong there.
Let's talk about the reasons why she doesn't feel so powerful when she's not on defense.
Yeah. It's probably because of the teleporter, to be the most honest. Like the impact of having an ultimate that impacts the game is a lot less when you're on offense.
Yeah, and I also think that Symmetra is a hero that requires some setup for her to be the like the
Right.
most effective that she can, right? Like to set up the 6 turrets, you need like a good 30 seconds because you only have 3 at a time. So if you want to set up the whole kit, it requires some time. And also, she doesn't have very kind of like reactive abilities. All of her abilities are very kind of like passive, kind of like sit and
Mm-hmm.
forget kind of thing. Like we said, you have to have some time to set up. So you kind of put your turrets and then you kind of hope that the enemy team will walk through them, as opposed to like other heroes where their kit is very reactive and very offensive, right? Where you can get in the face of them, you have tools to get in and out, you have tools to reflect damage, you have tools to stun, and also you have a lot of damage from a very decent range. Symmetra doesn't have any of these things. Her damage is very up close, like the most effective damage that she can do, both with turrets and
Mm-hmm.
with her beam. And her only long range attack is probably the slowest projectile in the game that any hero in this game can see coming from a mile away and kind of just move away. I found that in short range, though, she can be very effective. Like you can charge up your Mega Man little booster, jump in front of somebody, throw it at them, do an insane amount of damage, and then just latch on with your beam and kind of finish them off. Even better if you're in a room or close quarters. I feel like that's when she shines the most, when she's trying to protect a choke point that is very tight, where she can lay
Right.
her turrets on every like little corner as the people are coming in and just shoot her energy orbs um, through that tunnel or through the short little space that it can hit a lot of people. So she can be really effective there. But I think that the main problem is, for example, her E ability. I think her E ability is one of the most unexciting abilities in the game where you just kind of like set it and forget it.
Here's a
And
shield.
yeah, and you usually do it at the beginning of the game, and it's only a 25 health shield, which can actually, save you in a lot of situations, but is not very significant. And I think it really hurts her that one of her 4 abilities is kind of this very limited thing that doesn't have much impact in your like
Right. Right.
day-to-day activities, right? Like if only the shield could be a little more interactive. Like even if it was kind of like, you know how in Super Smash Bros you have Star Fox and he has that little shield that
The
deflects
little
things.
select.
Yeah, that you have to like time it right at the right moment. It lasts for like half a second, maybe like 1 second at the most. And but if you time it right, you can deflect anything that comes at you at that time. I think something like that would be super useful. Something that you can do on yourself or maybe cast on an ally. And if you time it, then you like deflect everything. I think something like that would be so much more useful and can give you a little more impact on the battlefield than just kind of like this set and
Mm.
forget shield. And that might be a reason why they're looking to rework her kit. Um,
Yeah.
you have any
I was
opinions?
hoping more for something similar to that, like, but I was thinking more of like the more modern Ness ability, where Ness has like this big area field that he puts around himself for like a split second. Like again, it breaks down because you can, hold abilities and they last longer in Brawl or in Super Smash Bros. But like in if you make this ability only last for like a brief second, like Honors is saying, and it be not a reflect because Genji has that, but an absorption. So
Ooh,
like maybe giving you some sort of like charge on your gun, or like making it go fully charged instead of like having to hold the beam, or if you have the little balls actually get increased speed after you successfully do that for a set amount of time, similar to like a Zarya charge. Or you could have the absorption basically give you a self heal when you absorb. It doesn't give your allies a heal, it just gives you a heal. Um,
interesting.
and
They
that
did.
doesn't seem too great, but I mean, it does. It's some sort of self damage mitigation.
I think more importantly than that is just the ability of her being able to interact a little more with her team, both defensively or offensively, to protect them or protect herself. I like the idea of the absorb. That sounds like a really cool idea that can work well. They did say that they don't want Symmetra to be a healer, that they kind of like her not providing healing abilities. They say that they were more willing to even change her role. And I think that that might be the way to go, honestly, like changing Symmetra to a defense hero and making her more in that category more than in the support category, which might have happened just because they needed to put one more support in that category, right? Like they didn't want to launch the game with only three. Yeah. Your voice is really crackling up right now for some reason, like really lo-fi.
One second. All right, let's do a quick clap. I'm gonna have to resync it with your audio. Sorry about that, folks, on the live show. All right, here we go.
All right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right. But yeah, to sum up the discussion and more towards your point, I think that especially if you're not planning to play at the highest tiers, Symmetra is as good a pick as any of the other heroes, and it still remains to see what her changes are going to be. I've seen some Symmetras play really, really well, and like we said, you just have to make people play into your game. You have to know that you're not a rush hero like Genji or Tracer. You know, you're not a tanky hero, or you're not a hero that can be in the middle of the fray for a long time. But you're a hero that can like lure their opponents into your battlefield. She really shines the defense because of this, because the enemy team has to come to you. But especially if you're playing with a couple of buddies that are like into your strategy, I've seen some cool offenses where you kind of like set up a spawning room or a spawning location. You build a ton of turrets in there, and you do this strategically, right? Like you do it in a way that
bait them there.
Yeah, you can spawn like behind them, or you can spawn like on the opposite end of them, and you can attack through one side, spawn through the other, and have like this constant stream of heroes. I think for against a really organized team, this might not work as easily, because as soon as they know you're doing this, they'll rush your teleport and destroy it. But like you said, if you're just doing quick play and you're just having fun, this is the sort of strategy that it can be actually really entertaining to do.
Absolutely. That being said, we appreciate the emails. If you guys want to send us an email, you can head over to your email accounts and send emails to omniclabpodcast@gmail.com. We have 2 brand new iTunes reviews this week. We have one that I will read, and then Andres, you can read the other one. So we have one from Alpine Fire of USA. I actually got a chance to play quite a bit with him in the Brawl and in some competitive matches this week. So thanks again, Alpine, for playing with me. He says, got Overwatch. No need to search any further. Rob and Andres are very down to earth, and they do their research. They break things down that you thought you already knew and entertain at the same time. If you're looking for a fresh but growing community, you couldn't be in a better place. Welcome home, heroes. Keep up the great work, guys. Thanks, Alpine.
Yeah, thanks, bro.
Very kind of you.
Absolutely. We also have a review from Ken Lembeck from the USA, and he says, best Overwatch podcast. I've searched around when I first started playing to find a podcast that provides what Andres and Rob provide, a way to help me improve my game. The information they cover about actual gameplay is fantastic, and the chemistry in the show is great. Keep up the good work. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it. I'm glad that that is exactly what you're finding in our podcast.
What we really strive to do here on Omnic Lab. If you guys want to leave us an iTunes review, it is the best and the cheapest way to support the show. If you haven't already, you can head over to iTunes in your browser or on the actual iTunes app and leave us an iTunes review, and we'll read it on the show if we don't get overloaded by having a bunch of them all hit us at once. We have a really interesting thing this week. We normally don't do this on the show. I'm testing it out this week. So if you guys are curious as to where to find Omnic Lab, We normally don't make a whole big thing for merch, but we have hoodies this time.
Woo!
So if you guys want hoodies, you want t-shirts, we're all of that in our shop. You can find it at omniclab.com, and you can click the shop tab. And bonus this week, if you've listened through all of that, we have a bonus coupon code for free standard shipping. So if you want free shipping, you just type in just number 4U. That's JUST number 4YOU, and you get standard shipping for free through October 25th. So you guys can go do that if you'd like. This is another shameless plug for our Discord server, more so because it's a great place that people have really been enjoying finding folks to group up with. And our admins are starting to roll out this thing this last week for everyone, which is a Google spreadsheet. If you guys want to put your info in the spreadsheet, try to find people in your time zone, trying to find people that jive with your strategy and are within your elo that are willing to play with you, that's a great way to do it. So contact our admin in our Discord channel. If you want to find that, go into your browser and type discord.me/omniclab. It will not work in the app. You'll have to do it on your browser. But that's it for the show. You guys can also find us on Twitter and Facebook with the Omnic Lab tag, and our Patreon is at patreon.com with the same tag. If you guys are interested, we will do YouTube shows, so you can catch us live, usually on the weekends on Saturday or Sunday in the morning, or on about a couple days after the live show on YouTube. And yeah, go check that out there. Andres, where can people find you, man?
Personally, you can find me on Twitter at iPlayGames. You can also find me streaming in this same channel, twitch.tv/OmnicLab. And you can find my Hearthstone podcast, where we discuss everything Hearthstone, Coin Concede. Check that out. I also want to give a big shout out to our Discord. I know that we've been repeating this in a lot of our episodes, but it's a really awesome, growing community. Everyone over there is super friendly. Like Rob said, our admins are super awesome, and they're making sure that it's easy for everyone to queue up together, to know when people play. So if you're looking for a nice community of people to just play, we have people from every rank: silver, gold, platinum, diamond. So there's a little bit for everyone. Awesome people always giving advice. So check that out.
Absolutely. You guys can find me over at Twitter at NotRob. You can find my Facebook at NotRobMedia if you're interested in some of the pictures and stuff that I've been able to do before I moved to Japan. And if you're interested in finding some plays that I've done, you can go see some of the highlights that I'll put up on plays.tv/u/NotRob as well. I got some really interesting feedback on my Zarya video. I talked with one of our admins, Fat Cake, who was really close to hitting the top 500 and then dropped a bunch of ranks into diamond again, but he coached me through some Zarya plays. So that's another thing that you can find in the Discord if you haven't yet. It's really great having people look at your games when they have time. Well, Andres, it's time to go enjoy a very happy Halloween with your Reapers and your Coffins and maybe even some Symmetra eyeballs. Thanks for tuning in to episode number 25 with a Reaper, the Halloween Reaping Brawl. Don't be a lab rat, be a scientist. We'll see you guys next week. Omnics, adios.
I have nothing more to teach you.